This will be an introduction to the sixth trait writing that we will use for the high school and the eighth grade grammar class. The worksheet that you have in front of you is what I like to call the table of contents. So if you think about, if you start the year with a science textbook or with a math textbook, and if you look at the table of contents at the beginning of the book, usually it's very confusing. You have no idea what the terminology means. You're kind of lost when you look at it. But hopefully what happens by the time you get to May and you review that table of contents, everything makes sense. So that is exactly what this particular worksheet does. I'm going to throw a lot of terminology at you. We're going to complete it, and what you're doing basically is you are creating a table of contents that we are going to use this first semester in learning the 6 traits of good writing. So as I teach this online here and as you complete your table of contents at home, just bear in mind that I do not expect you to remember all of this at one time. I just want you to listen, to copy what I have written down here, and when you get into class we will discuss it further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide these videos into 4 different videos, possibly 3 if time allows. We're definitely going to discuss the 4 modes of writing in the first video, which will be this video. The second video we will discuss the 5-step writing process, and then in the third video I'm going to coordinate the 5-step process with the 6 steps of writing. So I tell students in the beginning that, you know, if you don't like grammar or if you don't like English, then this is the mathematics of English, so hopefully you will enjoy it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the 4 modes of writing. Modes is a French word. It means style. So we're going to talk about the 4 different styles of writing that are out there. And the first style we're going to talk about is called expository. And this is the writing that you probably most associate with academics. Expository writing basically means that you are explaining something. You are giving information and only information. So for students, you would know expository writing by essays that you write in class. You would also recognize expository writing by research papers that you do. You research information, you consolidate that information, and then give it back in your own words, but basically it's strictly an informational report. The second style or mode of writing that I'm sure you are well acquainted with is persuasive. And persuasive writing, you know, I tell students when we teach vocabulary, I don't want you to use the term in order to give the definition. So we're not going to say that persuasive writing persuades. Instead, what we are going to say is that persuasive writing tries to convince the reader to either have your point of view, so you have an idea and you want to convince the reader that your idea is the right or the better idea, or you want to convince your reader to take action based on the idea. And so that is what persuasive writing is. The third mode of writing, which really is not used very often in schools, I do it a little bit in 9th grade English in the past, a little bit when we get into the college level, but you need to know it anyway. And so the third style of writing is technical writing. And in essence, technical writing is how-to manuals. Technical writing can be something like a cookbook. It can be something like the car manual when you buy a new car and you look in the glove compartment and there it is. Technical writing is very specific. It's very logically organized. If you leave out a step, you totally leave the reader in the lurch, and so technical writing is really, I think, the most difficult writing to do. And then the fourth writing that I teach is called narrative writing. And if you think about, you know, the narrator typically tells the story that is about to happen. So narrative writing is basically stories. Narrative writing can be stories in terms of nonfiction stories. The Bible is filled with nonfiction stories in order to tell us truth. But narrative writing can also be fictional stories, that is, imaginative stories, but that still have a theme. They have characters, they have plot, they have setting, etc. Some out there actually teach a fifth style of writing, which they would call descriptive writing. But quite frankly, I think that descriptive writing, which is basically showing, adding lots of detail, visual detail, auditory, smell, touch, taste kind of detail. And I think that that is probably not a specific mode of writing, but actually it's something that should be used across all modes. You would use descriptive writing in expository, in persuasive, probably not so much in technical, definitely in narrative writing. So those are the 4 modes of writing. I'm going to stop this video now, but you are going to progress right on to the 5-step writing process.